Well, good morning, and what an exciting way to start an exceptional day. I think so often we begin new things, and when we do, it's like putting your toe in the water, and the water feels like ice until you really jump in and really enjoy it and get to have a lot of fun. And so this morning was just like that. I felt like my toe got cold there for a moment. So don't despair. Today is going to be an exciting day, and we've got some wonderful speakers that are going to be joining me in a moment, and we're going to share some exciting insights with you. After each talk, there'll be a short panel discussion where we share our insights, but importantly, we would love to hear your insights as well. And Henny's going to help me. We'll keep track of our comments coming via YouTube. So please share your comments. Tell us where you're from. We'd love to include your insights in our discussion. So today's theme is to make life purposeful. What a mission! What a mission! That, I think, is for me the most exciting thing that we can possibly do. Imagine getting up every Monday morning knowing without any doubt that you're living on purpose, that this day was meant for you. It's a brand new day, untraveled, uncharted, waiting for you to make your footprints. That's the kind of life we should be living. I think, people should try and stop us on Sundays just to take our day rest, or Saturdays to take our day rest, wherever you might be living and whatever practices you might have. But we certainly need to have one day of rest. And if you're following your purpose, if you're connected with your passion, then you're going to be one of those kind of people, not controlled by the 8-hour day that so many people find themselves in. And so we want you to live a 24-hour day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, your whole life long, and every single step making impact. So I'm excited. I'm going to be introducing the panel and the speakers in a moment. Before I do, I'd like to play you a short little video that was given to me in 2012, just when I wanted to put together a video to explain what Map for Life is all about. And I trust that this short video is going to give you the desire to literally begin to write your story, remembering that every single new day is an opportunity to add another page, another chapter, another volume, perhaps. Any takeover?
The pages of this book are empty, plain white paper waiting for the tip of the pen to meet the page, blank surfaces waiting to be stained in words of ink. But this is no ordinary book. This book was addressed to you. This book is yours. You and you alone are the one who must write the words on these pages. It's time for you to write your story. It's time for you to make your mark. Age does not define whether or not you can write your story. It is never too late to begin, and it's never too early to start. So, what story are you going to write? Is it going to be a predictable repeat of an old tale, like a broken vinyl singing the same lyric? Or will it be an epic, unforgettable chronicle that will limitlessly inspire generations upon generations? What characters will be a part of your story? What names will feature on these pages? How many nations will be reached in your tale? How many countries will the ink of your pen describe? Will your influence spread across the map more than the blue waters of the ocean? Will you fill every page with adventure, or will there be pages left blank, white papers smothered in unfulfilled potential? Will your story have an ending marked in victory? Will you still be fighting the good fight in your final chapter, or will the hero lose their vision before their time is up? Where will you go? What will you see? What will you start? And what will you finish? Will there be an undeniable evidence of your existence on this earth? Will you leave something behind that cannot be replaced, or will the mark of your footsteps be blown away by the winds? Will you leave a distant memory or an unbreakable legacy? This is your story. Will it be one to remember? Whoever you are and wherever you are, it's time to start writing.
You are, it's time to start writing. And today we have joining me in studio, firstly, Lauren, all the way from Johannesburg. We have Henny from the neighborhood, Rudderpoort. We also have Glenn Lees Jones, all the way from Pretoria, along with his neighbor, and that is Marvin. So great to have you guys joining us. I think the people that are listening in this morning and who are going to be listening to the recording of these sessions certainly are looking forward to what you have to share. So starting with you, Henny, we'd love to have you just quickly introduce yourself and the talk that you're going to be sharing with us this morning.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Henny Nieuwoud. I am from Rudderpoort in South Africa, where it is very hot this morning. My talk, I think, actually adds on to the video that you just saw. You were given a book. What are you going to write in the book? I'd like to share with you my journey so far and what I've written on the pages of that book that I was given to start with. So I want to take you through a few of the highlights of the last 10 months of my journey, I think, so that you can understand how exciting it is and so that you can take the courage to take that step and go and do it yourselves.
Fantastic, Henny. I'm looking forward to hearing that story, and it's been such a joy to have someone in Map for Life writing their story, just like you have done. Great job. Lauren, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be part of the team this morning. I'm a little bit nervous this morning, but it's going to be all good. We're going to share and learn together. And I'm really excited to hear what the other speakers have to share. I'm based in Johannesburg, also in Rudderpoort, probably close to Henny somewhere. But I'm going to be speaking this morning about weaknesses, and I'm going to be sharing on them with you to find out, are they actually a hidden strength in your life, or are they a flaw? Because I've learned an amazing lesson this year, and I feel like I'd like to share it with others. So I hope that you find it interesting.
You know, that term nerves. I was listening to somebody just the other day, and they said that feeling that you have is actually your body preparing you for breakthrough. And I just loved that idea, because without that feeling, you're not ready to deliver. So, Lauren, you are perfectly ready to deliver, and I'm excited. I can't wait, because you have a really exciting message, and I think it's going to change people's perception or perspective of something. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to share. Marvin?
Hi, everybody. My name is Marvin Hawkins. I'm been with MAP for about 10 years. My talk this morning is going to be along the lines of cutting back and tuning out from the things that are distracting us so that you can actually just focus in. So I look forward to sharing a bit with you on how important it is to stay on track. But to stay on track, you've got to stay focused in.
I like the fact that you're wearing Marvin's action plan shirt there. So good to have you. And of course, Marvin's not, he's quite greedy. It's not just Marvin's action plan, but it's also the musician's action plan. So he's got it all sorted out there. Marvin, great to have you joining us as always. Looking forward to your session, a very important session. I think everybody needs to hear the message. I've had the privilege of hearing it already, so I trust that you're going to really enjoy it. Glenn?
Great. Thank you very much, Glenn. Always sometimes confusing with two Glens on the show, eh? But wonderful to be here. Always an honor. I've been involved in MAPE for Life since 2013 and did the mastery course in 2014, and I've actually redone that mastery course several times. I think Glenn's getting a bit sick of me every time I come up, eh? But really, once again, an honor to be here. My talk today is really going to be, I think, on the back of what Marvin just spoke about, the power of vision, and really using and applying the power of vision in your life, specifically around your purpose and making life purposeful, and applying the MAPE for Life methodology. So yeah, looking forward to that, and it's going to be fun today. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. So I'm going to show a short little video clip before Lauren starts her talk. So Lauren's going to be sharing her talk first. We'll have a short panel discussion after that, followed by Marvin, Henny, Glenn, and myself. So we're looking forward to a very busy 2-hour session. 1 hour 45 minutes left right now. So Lauren, we wish you all the best. We're looking forward to your message, and you'll be on screen straight after Linza from Mozambique has shared a brief message with us.
I have no words to say how grateful I am to start this new journey. So I hope in the end of all this program, I will have all the tools I need to start over and to live and to start to live my life with purpose, because until now I think that as you said on your presentation, I'm just living. I'm just I wake up every morning and I take care of the kids. I go to work for other people's everything, but I need to find my purpose. So I'm looking for it. So thank you so much, and God bless you and your family and your projects, and you and your family are in my prayers. Thank you so much.
Wow, it's so awesome watching a person starting on the journey, and thank you so much, Linza, for sharing it with us. Watching her gave me a memory of when I first started working with MAPE for Life and the excitement I had for the journey. And yeah, so as Glenn said earlier, obviously my name is Lauren, and today I want to be sharing with you about weaknesses. Specifically looking at, are your weaknesses a hidden strength that you're not aware of, or are they actually a flaw? And this is something I have been talking about for quite a few months now, but I'm going to share with you a little bit of the journey of how I came to discover what weaknesses were for me. And I hope that through that, you can think about where your weaknesses are for yourself. So, in the world today, we obviously consider lots of things in two ways whenever we have to start a new project or a new goal or plan. And we always look at what's the positive and negative, or the strengths and weaknesses. One of the most popular questions encountered today when you are in an interview is, tell us about your strengths and tell us about your weaknesses. And I know everybody always dreads that question because we are not actually sure of how to respond and what they're going to think of what we answer. But recently, as I've been going through what weaknesses are for myself, I was thinking about, how do weaknesses actually tie into MAPE? And I don't know about anybody else watching, but I found the only time I really thought about what my weaknesses were was when I had to sit and do my goal plan. And when you have to look at the positive and the negative and the consequences and all those things. And other than that part of the plan, I never actually stopped to think about weakness. I would only ever be thinking about what I do well and where my strengths were and how I can keep developing my strengths for them to become stronger. However, um, I often found that when I was working through MAP, there were days where I was like, but surely I'm only tapping into one side of myself. I'm not using the other. And there must be something there that is helpful or useful. And then obviously I got busy focusing on the strengths again. And I'm sure many of us have been using MAP for quite a few years, and we might be experts already in the methodology itself. But my question for us this morning is, how often do we take time to really reflect and do an internal deep self-awareness exercise about specifically weaknesses? To be honest, I've never really sat and thought about it. And I've never said, hey, let me make a list of my weaknesses and see how I can use them to achieve my tasks and goals. It's because we don't go there. It's the areas that we. But during this year, I was engaged on a project working with some ladies at a safe home for abuse. And whenever I had to engage with these ladies and spend time with them, I learned more and more about my biggest weaknesses and how God actually used them as his strength. You see, I'd never experienced what these ladies have been through in my own world and in my own life. And I honestly was terrified about what gave me the qualification to come and speak to these ladies and spend time with them and talk with them. But this was where God had called me to. So I thought, well, I'm going to be obedient and I'm going to step in and I'll see where I can maybe make a difference. But as I stepped in more and more, I learned that the biggest lessons about myself and about how God can use us is being available. You see, I don't know about you, but how often have you done something being scared or not having all the skills that you needed before you even started the process? That's how I felt also when I started the Map for Life process, because I was like, I have to do all of these things, but I've never learned how to do these. But obviously, I learned with time. And I'm sure there's many stories that everyone watching can share about how things have always just fallen into place at the right time, or the right person came along your path. And that is something that God taught me through this process this year. And even when I was going back and looking at scripture, even Paul, one of the most learned men, Jewish men in the Bible, who was an important role player in the start of the early church, said that, but God said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That's from 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9. And then again in 2 Corinthians 11:30, Paul says, if I must boast, I will boast of the things that show my weaknesses. And I remember when I read that this year, it just was like, wow, I never ever, I know God makes us strong in our weaknesses through his power, but I've never actually realized how powerful he is when we are the weakest. And that's because God does things in reverse. You see, he chooses the foolish things in this world to shame the wise, and he uses the weak things in this world to shame the strong. And immediately when I think of that phrase, it takes me to David and Goliath. And how many times and how many tasks and goals are we facing, or have we faced as part of our purpose, that have those David and Goliath moments, those there's this massive mountain and I need to use all my strengths, but my strengths aren't getting anywhere. So then you have to tap into something else. And what is that? You see, those moments come immediately when those moments come, those David Goliath moments, I immediately go into problem solving mode and using my strengths. But I've learned this year specifically that sometimes engaging in my area of weakness yields more than if I had done it in my strength. Because often the fruit that comes out of that situation or that is yielded is not for us, it's for others. And that for me was so profound, because whenever you're doing something in your weakness, it actually benefits someone else more than you. And isn't that kind of how we are called to love people? We're supposed to love them with everything, the good and the bad. But back to my story. My weaknesses when working specifically with the ladies this year is I didn't know what to say or how to say it. I was completely overwhelmed. And if you know me and spend time with me, you'll know I love to talk and I love to engage with people. Keeping quiet and listening is not one of my strong suits. I really struggle with that. But then I put myself into this situation where I could not engage on a topic because I felt my words were useless and not helpful. My weakness of being quiet actually tied in with the strength of planning, showing up, and opening my heart to people. And when I did that, God's healing and strength flowed and did the rest. And I just had to pitch up. The transformation that we saw through the ladies this year was also so humbling and amazing. And, my whole point for today's talk, and if I can get you to take one or two things away from this, it would be the following. How do you view your weaknesses? Are they things that you feel are holding you back? Or are you taking time to see if they are intentional, part of your unique design to help you accomplish your entire purpose? You see, our strengths often complement our weaknesses. What I mean is that our strengths that we have help get us to a certain point where we can set everything up and get it ready. And then once everything is in place, that's when we sometimes need to engage in an area we might be vulnerable. And when we actually do that, we then invite God's power and He perfects or changes our weakness into His strength. One of the ways that we can make our lives purposeful is to fully or completely engage in our purpose. Meaning that we can only achieve this when we are fully embracing our strengths and our weaknesses, using them to complement one another. And when we do this, we actually then partner in with God in our weaknesses so that they can become His strength. We are able to truly make our life purposeful when we are using everything that God put into us and put into our created beings. So, in closing, I want to leave you with two questions. How do you view your weaknesses? Are they a flaw in your eyes, or are they a hidden strength that you can tap into? Thank you so much for listening. I hope that that was something useful for you. Have a great day.
Hello. Habari gani rafiki? I am Dr. Zaipuna Yona in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. I started using Map for Life in 1999, then called the Journal. For me, Map for Life is a master companion tool that guides me to live a God-class life. My favorite leadership quote is, I am significant, so are you. Be mapped.
Such a nice take on topic of the decade, I guess, because when I say topic of the decade, there's so many books that are being written about strengths and weaknesses, and people are talking about being focused on your strength. But here, Lauren brings something out that's so powerful, and I'm really interested in hearing what each of your take home is from what Lauren shared with us. Well done, Lauren. That was great.
Yeah, well done.
Henny, what is your take from that?
I think from my side, first of all, well done, Lauren. You managed to convert nerves into positive energy, and you brought us an awesome message. I think it is so true what you said there. And the one thing that stood out for me was really, if you know what your purpose is and you know where you're going and the vision is right, everything you've got is going to be a strong point, and you almost don't have any weaknesses. It's a matter of trust and saying, do what you need to do. Back in the old days when I was still in the Sunday school, we were taught to say, trust on God. He will always guide you in any situation that you are. And I found it to be so true. And as part of what I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit later, you sometimes just do something and then you think, or you volunteer to do something and then you think, well, I don't have the skills to do this thing. What am I going to do right now? You know what? You've got the skills. I think if you believe in your vision, if you believe in your Father that will support you, nothing is going to hold you back. But thank you very much for sharing, and keep on doing the great job you're doing. It sounds like you're doing an awesome job with the ladies out there.
Fantastic. Thanks, Henny. And it is, I think there's an example that Lauren is setting. We need to engage in our community. We need to engage with other people. There's so many that we can help. And what's interesting is that the people that we go to help end up helping us. They help us become better. They help us to understand life differently. So, Marvin, you have a take home. Would you like to share yours?
Sure. Well done, Lauren. That was brilliant. I was just listening to the talk on how weaknesses can actually become a strength. I was reading this quote by Steve Jobs where he says, in most cases, strengths and weaknesses are two sides of the same coin. The strength in one situation is a weakness in another. And often people can't seem to switch the gears. And it just made me realize that I think contextually, depending on where you're at, where you're at in life personally, or where you're at in terms of your surroundings, it's good to recognize and to know what you are strong at and what you're not so strong at. And this is where I believe that, we're not meant to do life alone. So those that are stronger at you than in a specific area are there to actually complement you and fill that gap. I think that's why it's important to really know what you are good at and what you're not so good at, and partner with those that can be there to kind of be that hand in glove to complement. So I think if we can get to that state, I think that's what God's plan was for us. And that's where unity is in as well, because it will only be a complement of two people when we're all heading in the same direction with the same vision and the same goal, which is bigger than us. So I think that was just a different perspective that I wanted to share with the panel.
What is something that just struck me now, Marvin, when you were talking, is that there's sometimes our perceived weakness is actually the feeling that we experience just before we deliver a talk, and so we've just seen a demonstration where Lauren said just before she began to talk, I'm a little bit apprehensive about this, and in a sense you have that feeling like I'm not really ready to deliver, and then she goes and smashes it out the park. That's maybe a sign of what we perceive to be a weakness is actually us being set up for a real kapow, and so well done, Lauren. It was great. Glenn?
I couldn't agree with you more, Glenn. Lauren, congratulations on that. Absolutely brilliant. In fact, I see a whole bunch of sermons within that talk. So I'd love to get a copy of that and actually start doing sermons from that. I'm really excited about it. It's really great. I'd like to mention just three things, because a lot has been mentioned already, but I think three things that came out for me that quite strongly. The first is the word potential. And that oftentimes we think our weakness is exactly that, a weakness, and yet there's potential to bring it out and create a strength through it, obviously through the Holy Spirit's leading, etc. That to me is quite important. I've so often seen beforehand where I've had to do talks or I've had to do things in my life, and I thought to myself, I'm not capable of doing this. And I end up going to go and do it. And then people come to me afterwards and say, you know, where have you studied? What have you done? And I'm thinking, I haven't. So it's amazing how God can actually use you in instances. And that brings me to the next point, and that is just to be available. Just be available. What Glenn also spoke about now in that terms of the community and getting out there and reaching people, I think that's such an important aspect nowadays. Just be available and be that mouthpiece for people out there. The last point I want to mention is that be open to learn. So often I've looked at various aspects and thought to myself, there's no way I know anything about this particular topic. And once I've gone to little Dr. Google or done a little bit of research myself, I suddenly realized, hey, but it's not that difficult. So, even in that weakness situation, you can actually apply yourself and do things, and it can come out very, very strongly. And once again, the backing of God, you can't lose. So congratulations again, Lauren. Well done.
As we've been talking, I just want to bring it back to Map for Life, and how what we're really suggesting to every user of Map for Life is to write down big ideas. I mean, it's so big that they're impossible, so big that you actually feel weak, incompetent, unprepared, incapable of actually making it happen. And it's through this message, I realized that it's through my weakness that he is strong. So actually I need to specialize in my weakness, not because I'm going to be strong, but it's about God being able to demonstrate his strength through my weakness. Where I'm strong, I don't need God. And a lot of people are operating in that place where they get all the glory. It's only through our weakness that God gets the glory. And for me, that was just a whole shift of paradigm, and to say that maybe my weakness is actually my strength. So that's kind of where I was looking at, and so a great way to start the day. Marvin's going to be up after this short little intro. So Marvin, we're really looking forward to your session, and I have a sense that we're going to be really focused after this session. So in a moment, we'll hand over to Marvin.
Thank you so much, Glenn. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the topic on cut back, tune out, and focus in. And I want to ask you a question. Do you find also that the world is getting us rather, or maybe getting you a lot more and more distracted? More often than not, it feels that way. Our digital devices just keep on buzzing the whole time. We've got notifications that are informing us about the latest news and trends and entertainment opportunities now more than ever before. And with that, it's really important. Well, it seems certainly harder to really focus in on what's important. Now, the state of being distracted might appear more available than ever before, but it's nothing new. What's interesting is over 2,000 years ago, Socrates and Aristotle debated the nature of what they called akrasia, which is pronounced akrasia, our tendency to act against our better judgment. To the ancient Greeks, we mere mortals were prone to distraction due to our weaknesses of will. But it's easy for them to say because back then they didn't have to resist binge watching things like Game of Thrones or The Good Doctor or whatever series that you're following. But is distraction all bad? Is all distraction bad? In fact, I found that some distraction can actually be helpful. Distractions can help us, for example, deal with pain. And many products and services like video games, like social media sites are designed to be so good that we want to use them all the time. I mean, especially you look at Facebook, Instagram, they've got this option where you can flip from one reel to the next. Next thing you know, you've been looking at reels for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So sometimes we really have trouble limiting the use and finding ourselves stuck in distractions. So I want to give you 4 pillars to becoming indistractable. The first pillar is mastering internal triggers. The second one is making time for traction. Third is hacking back external triggers. And finally, blocking out our distractions. So let's look at this. All behaviors, both traction and distraction, are prompted by triggers. And these triggers are both internal and external. Let's quickly look at those that are internal. You know that feeling when your belly starts growling and you'd like a snack, or you feel like, I need to get something to drink, or maybe you're feeling sad or lonely or stressed, or it might feel like you want to call a friend, or you're looking for love from someone or some sort of support. That's the internal triggers. Those are the things that cue us within. External triggers, on the other hand, are the cues on the external environment. You know, these many pings and dings that we get from these devices, the rings that prompt us to check our email, answer the phone, or open news alerts. External triggers can also come in the form of other people. People like our co-worker who wants to stop and have at our desk and have a quick chat. Or there's also those objects that we have sometimes in our rooms or sometimes in our sitting rooms called television sets. And the mere presence of them is what urges us to turn it on. Whether it's an internal trigger or an external one that prompts us, the resulting action is either aligned with the broader intention, which is your traction, or misaligned, which is distraction. Now, traction moves us either towards our goals, and distraction moves us away from them. So it's important to really start digging in and dealing with it. So let's start with the first pillar. The first pillar is mastering those internal triggers. The first step to managing the distraction is to recognize it starts within. Yes, you're right, it starts with me. Unless we deal with the root cause of distraction, which is that thing, that urge, and controlling that, we'll continue to find ways to distract ourselves. Distraction, it turns out, isn't about the distracting thing itself, but rather it's how we respond to it. So resisting and finally giving into the desire is what perpetuates the cycle of distraction, and quite possibly is what drives us to that many unwanted behaviors. So while we can't control the feelings and the thoughts that pop into our heads, we can control what we do with them. Don't you think so? We can manage the distractions that originate from within by changing how we think about them. Rather than trying to fight that urge, we need new methods. That's the only way we can actually handle these intrusive thoughts. So let me give you 4 steps quickly. The first one is look for the discomfort that precedes that distraction. Look and focus on that internal trigger. What is it that makes you uncomfortable about it? Second, and this is an important MAP principle, write that trigger down. Just write it down. Explore your negative sensations with curiosity instead of contempt is the third step. And then fourth, be extra cautious during those liminal moments when you transition from one activity to another. So say you need to get to if you're working from home, you need to get to the kitchen and you happen to pass something that's going to distract you, like a television. Be wary of that. We can cope with uncomfortable internal triggers by reflecting on them rather than reacting to our discomfort. We can reimagine tasks that we are trying to accomplish by looking for the fun in it and focusing on it more intensely. And most importantly, we can change the way we see ourselves to get rid of that self-limiting belief. Trust me, if you believe you can do it, you can. If we tell ourselves we are deficient by nature, we'll believe every word. Henry Ford said, if you believe you can, if you believe you can't, you're right. Choose to believe you can. Intent. The second pillar is making time for traction. Making time for things that you really want to do is important. And you can't call something a distraction unless you know what it is that's distracting you from. And there's three domains comprising of the people with whom we spend our time with. So it's work, relationships, and you. Those are the three domains that are where we choose to have traction. And these are the domains that give us a way to think about how we plan our day so that we can become the people we really want to be. Being indistractable is largely about making sure that you make time for traction each day and eliminating those distractions that keeps you from living the life that you want. And what's important is planning your time with the intention is critical. And Map for Life actually gives you that. When you look inside the blueprint, it takes you through a series of planning sessions from quarterly to monthly to weekly to daily. And it also helps you to set new habits. And after all, the time that you plan to waste is not wasted time. By defining how we spend our time and syncing that with stakeholders in our lives, that's how we can ensure we do things that matter and ignore the things that don't. It also frees us from those trivialities of our day and gives us back the time that we can't afford to waste. Let me talk about the third big pillar, and that's hacking back those external triggers. You know, those unwanted external triggers hamper our productivity and diminish our well being, as you well know. While technology companies use cues like pings and dings on our phones to hack our behavior, external triggers are not confined to our digital devices. They're actually all around us, from a cookie beckoning to want to be eaten that's in a cabinet in your kitchen, to chatty co-workers keeping us from finishing our time-sensitive projects. Some of the other top distractions that are external include work disruptions, email, group chat, smartphones, computer desktop, online articles, online feeds, and can go on and on and on. I'm sure you can think of many more yourselves. These interruptions lead us to mistakes and steal our time from what we should be focused on. And it's time to block out those distractions. So I want you to answer this question. Is this trigger serving me or am I serving it? I'm going to ask you the question again. Even write it down. Is this trigger, is it serving me or am I serving it? The way you hack back that external trigger, the way you can hack back that external trigger is make sure that it isn't, you aren't serving it, but you are serving and taking control of your time. The fourth and final pillar is blocking out distraction. After we learned to master those internal triggers, make time for traction, and hack back the external triggers, the last step is becoming indistractable. And this involves us preventing ourselves from sliding in to distraction. To do so, we've got to learn a powerful technique called pre-commitment. And this involves removing a choice in the future to overcome our impulses in the present. Pre-commitments are the last line of defense preventing us from sliding into distraction. You should only use this after the first three indistractable strategies we've just covered have been applied. Don't skip the first three. You can prevent with effort pacts, which makes unwanted behavior more difficult to do. You can also make a price pact, which involves putting money on the line to encourage you to do what you say you will. And also, you can identify a pact is one of the most effective ways of changing your behavior, since it involves you changing your identity, your image of who you are. So whether you're trying to block out your distractions in the workplace or foster indistractable relationships, you can regain lost productivity time and have more satisfying relationships with your family and your friends, and above all, conquering distraction. Your home will be built on a sturdy and lasting foundation that will allow you to live the best possible life that you can. I want to leave you with this phenomenal set of quotes by Dr. Myron Golden. He says, mediocrity scaled exponentially, average scaled exponentially, scaled incrementally because so few people are prepared to pay the price. Question is, which part of the scale are you going to be? If you're going to allow yourself to easily be distracted, then you're on a good trajectory to staying mediocre, staying average. But today you can decide to delve into the world of focus, focusing in. This is where excellence lies. This is what will set you apart from most around you. So choose well. Choose today to focus in. Thank you.
Okay. Good. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amang Mulefe, and to begin with everything, I'd like to state my purpose to start with, because I think from there I can tie my dream and everything. Yo, I'm actually nervous because this actually means quite a lot to me. Okay. So I believe that my purpose is to plant seeds in people's hearts and lives, and I mean that figuratively. So if you think about seeds, there's different types of seeds that grow different things. There are seeds that grow fruit trees, that grow vegetables, that grow trees for habitation, for birds and everything. So there's different kinds of seeds, and I believe that God has gifted me with different skills and talents and knowledge that I can go and impact people of all nations. That's basically what I believe in. So from there, my dream is specifically for South Africa to believe that we can win. Just a mindset of winning. A mindset not of competition necessarily, but of winning whatever is in front of you. So if you feel that your purpose is this, for you to believe that you can win and actually achieve that in your lifetime. So in terms of the structure of a master action plan, my master action plan is I'm a seed planter. I'm like a farmer almost, figuratively. And so my action plan is that I want to develop football academies all over South Africa that give the youth a dream, that give young people who want to play football and want to be active, that give them a chance to actually pursue that. Just the chance means everything to someone. And then my anointed purpose is that I believe that God has gifted me with that, and I can go and impact people and just plant a seed, a seed of hope and fruits of the Spirit and all those wonderful things. And then I believe that the miraculous abundance will flow from that God will provide everything. It's not for me, it's for people. So yes, that's.
Well, that's exciting when we have these interesting interruptions. I'm not sure if it happened on your side, but on my side, the world changed there for a moment. So I'm hoping that those of you listening were able to hear Emang's full message. So welcome back, panel. Great to have you here. And Marvin, great job. I think as he was writing there, I wrote something down, and that was this particular word: become indestructible by being indistractable. So Marvin, thank you for that message. I think this is going to be a very powerful thing, and so important when it comes to developing new habits in our life. So often we want to start something new and we walk past that cupboard or the fridge in the room, and we have placed temptations inside that fridge. And we walk past it and I wonder what's inside then. Inside the fridge is a half filled tin of condensed milk. And you just can't resist but to take the teaspoon out that's right in the drawer next to the fridge. And while no one's looking, have that teaspoon of condensed milk. Now, I can see none of you struggle with that. Marvin, thank you so much for highlighting these things. And I think we need to get rid of the condensed milk and the cookies and all those other things that we put in our reach. So, Lauren, I'm going to start with you this time and ask you what was your moment or insight or aha moment rather from what Marvin shared with us.
Thanks, Glenn, and well done, Marvin. I really enjoyed your talk. I think for me, the biggest takeaway was linked again to being aware of what you're actually allowing for yourself and how it can either help or hinder where you are going or where you want to go. And the word that kept popping into my head was self-control. And it's one of the most difficult things to achieve. But if you are focused on where you're going and you have that intent zoomed in, those zoom in goggles or binoculars that you get, so like that Marvin was talking about, if you can get that right and you make sure that it's something that you don't let go of, and that becomes your safety net, then the self-control and the awareness is easier to have and achieve.
I love the idea of exercising our free will. I mean, after all, it's our birthright. It's the one thing that sets us apart from every other creation on the planet, is that we have a free will. We can make a choice and a decision. And I think it's time we started exercising that, get the order back right. So Glenn, what are your insights from Marvin's session?
Well done, Marvin. Really excellent. I enjoy your talks, I must admit. They're always very deep. A couple of things. Firstly, you got my imagination going, Glenn, when you were talking about that fridge and that condensed milk. Man, I'm looking for a good cup of coffee with some condensed milk in now. It's those internal triggers that really get me. There was a particular statement that Marvin made, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. And that is this trigger serving me or am I serving it? Very powerful indeed. And exactly what Lauren was speaking about is about that self-control. There's something that comes to mind when I start thinking about things like this, and that's that scripture in 2 Corinthians, which speaks about bring every thought captive to the obedience of Jesus Christ. And again, that's such a powerful scripture and something that we need to put into practice. And then the last point I want to make is that Map for Life is really such an important tool in terms of this aspect, where we can create habits for ourselves, the correct habits to steer us clear from those distractions, because they're all over the show. There are distractions everywhere. It's the whole world system is there in place right now to distract us from everything that we should be doing, especially in terms of our purpose. So all I can say is, if you haven't done Map for Life, if you haven't started it, get out there and do it. Make contact with one of us, make contact with a coach, make contact with Glenn McQuirk. You need to have a map for your life. Thank you.
I was just thinking of those newspaper headlines in South Africa that they tend to put on every light post pole in the street. And how destructive they can be to your day, and so I've trained myself. When I drive like this. Fortunately, I have multifocal lenses now, and they can only see where my nose points. So I make sure that I don't allow my nose to point in the direction of the poles, because it's so easy to get caught up in these things. And it just highlights that where we place our eyes and where we place our ears influences what's happening inside here. And I think there's many of those things that can result in trigger and it cause us maybe in certain circumstances to react instead of respond. So when I talked about that tin in the fridge, I won't mention its name. But it says when you resist temptation, the devil flees. When you resist temptation, the devil flees. And I think there's something about resisting temptation. In other words, not living in a cocoon, in an isolation where there are no temptations, but actually doing what Marvin said, make a what is the word that he used? A pre-commitment. You kind of resolve up front how you're going to behave in that situation. So when you see that tin that's in the fridge, you say, goodness me, who left this over here? Take it and go and throw it in the dustbin. Once you've emptied it. No, joking. Okay, Henny, I'm here to hear your insight.
Mine is going to be very short. I agree with Glenn and with Lauren. I think you've said everything. Now, on a more serious note, what is very interesting for me always from Marvin's side is it really feels like he's talking, and his talks always have purpose. It always, like, I can almost really feel the purpose coming out of his talks. There's something just differently. We can call it deep, we can call it whatever, but I always see purpose in whenever he delivers a talk. So thank you very much, Marvin. I think what I took from it as well was what Glenn said as well. Is this serving me or am I serving it? I'm still trying to find out how I'm going to reword it to my wife if she tells me to come and watch some series with her again. But it is really that. Is that hour that I'm going to waste sitting watching this series really going to add something to my life? Time is the most expensive commodity. You've got 24 hours of it, and if it's gone, it's gone. You cannot take it back. So an hour lost today watching something is an hour that I will never get back, that I could have used better. So yeah, I love the fact that everything that I do, every decision that I make almost needs to have the question connected to it. Am I going to serve something, or is this going to serve me going forward?
You know, whenever I watch a movie, I find myself constantly seeking my take home. You know, what is my take home? And I tend to not get emotionally in it. I don't get emotionally vested in a movie. I'm sort of separated from it, whereas some other family members get really into the movie. And there was a movie I watched called The Patriot, Mel Gibson, and he says he's in a moment. I think somebody's passed away or something. He's determined that he's not going to participate in this war, and somebody's trying to console him, and she says, "You've done nothing to be ashamed of." And he responds by saying, "I've done nothing, and that's a shame." Now, the reason I remember that quote, because that was my take home from that movie. So I think next time you watch the series, you know, do it for the relationship, but seek out the message. Maybe there's a message in that series. So Marvin, thank you so much. It was great having you join and share with us this morning. We really benefited. I'm going to share a short little video by Dean Coleman. In fact, Dean is presently in South Africa, but he lives in a place called Portugal. And we had the opportunity to have fish and chips together. Can you believe it? Fish and chips together on Wednesday afternoon this week. It was great to see him, to catch up and to hear of all the great things that he's doing in Portugal. And he's certainly flying the Map for Life flag there. So after Dean has shared a short message with us, Henny, it's going to be over to you, and we're looking forward to your journey that you are going to be sharing with us. So let's hear what Dean has to say.
Good evening. My name is Dean Coleman. I live currently in a place called Lule. I'm in Seal, Lule, here in Portugal. I've now lived here for the past 10 years. And it was just before I left South Africa that I was privileged to meet Glenn finally. I discovered his products back in about 2008. I was traveling between Johannesburg and Cape Town and ran into Exclusive Books thinking I needed a diary and grabbed hold of this thing called Map for Life. I took one look at this thing once I was on the plane and thought, this is crazy. I just wanted a simple diary. And for the 2-hour journey it took me to get to Cape Town Airport, I started to read some of the product that Glenn had offered and discovered that it was a little bit more than a diary. It was about discovering purpose and finding my way as to what we were supposed to be doing with our lives. By the time I got to Cape Town Airport, I thought, okay, let me hang on to this thing and we'll try this just for the first time. Since then, every year it was a strange thing. I would just complete the boxes, fulfill the tasks, complete the goals. And I hadn't had the formal training from Glenn at this point in time. Just following the purpose, following the rules, following the way it's supposed to be done. And finally, when I did get to meet Glenn, in fact, just before I left South Africa, I discovered a lot more about Map for Life and a lot more in depth, with the intention of finally bringing his product with me to Portugal. We've encountered many mappers here in Portugal, and incredible success stories seem to have followed as they've grown and as they mapped their own lives. And for me, this is exactly what Map for Life is about. It's about seeing someone with potential who never realizes what they've got within them. And one of my favorite quotes that Glenn gives us, he says, we were born for a purpose that the world cannot do without. And it's created many tears here locally, because a lot of the locals don't seem to realize the importance of this, and they just follow what they're told. They just do as they're supposed to be doing, not realizing that they in themselves have this incredible purpose to be birthed within them. And when we've gone through this, we've shown the guys here locally what Map for Life is about, and that the fact that they were created for this very purpose, and to watch how they've gone through the years and actually fulfilled their purpose to become successful people in their own lives, in their families, in their communities. It's incredible. So I thank Glenn for introducing me and allowing me to fulfill his purpose, which is to spread the word right across the globe. And I trust you will be mapped too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
One day when I'm big, I really want to be as calm and relaxed when I speak as Dean. It's unbelievable how somebody can be so relaxed when they speak. I've read about this word called self, a future self. And that really tickled me. What does future self mean, and where does that actually fit in? And I did some investigation, and I did a little bit of research around that to say, so what does future self really mean? And I started seeing that next to a vision board to say, so what would I look like? How would the future self of me look like in 10 years, in 10 months? And I think I based my talk this morning around that, to say I'd like to share something with you. So I'm gonna ask you all to use that thing that we don't use as often as we used to, called imagination. Let's for a moment imagine that the day today is 15 December 2022. So I'm taking you back about 10 months. And then also imagine that in a cafe, there are two gentlemen sitting at a table drinking cappuccinos. One of these gentlemen's name is Present Henny, and the other gentleman sitting there is called Future Henny. But Future Henny is not real because he's from 30 September 2023. So he's not real, but he's sitting there. And these two gentlemen are having a conversation. So Present Henny starts the conversation by saying, I found something called Map for Life, and I'm hoping it's going to make a difference in my life. I've lost my wife. I've lost my business. Nothing is going the way that it should, but deep inside me, I still feel that there is a way to go. There is something that I'm missing. There is something that I'm supposed to do that I haven't done yet. That's why I was sitting at home and I got a mail in my mailbox saying Map for Life is looking for trainers. Why did I get that email? That was something that triggered me to start a process. But I worked through the Map for Life methodology. I've gone through the 20-day program in 7 days because I really wanted to get to it. I don't want it to take 20 days. But I'm still unsure of what's going to happen. And Present Henny then turns to Future Henny to say, what can you tell me? What will happen if I start to find my purpose? If I find my passion, how do I know what my passion is and what will happen? What will I become if I start doing that? And Future Henny said, sit back and relax. Let me share with you some of the possibilities that is out there that will happen to you if you start following your vision and your passion. The first thing that might happen is, and you might not know it, but between Christmas and New Year, you might become a translator. You might be thrown into the deep end by volunteering and saying, there are gems that talks about leadership. And there's 52 of these gems that's needed for 2023, and they're not in Afrikaans yet. You can become a translator. You can start translating these things. But that's not all. You're going to take those gems and you're going to go and put them on Kartra, and they will be delivered to people. And there's about 15 of them right now that's getting on a Monday morning. But that's not all. If you're going to add to that the fact that there will be a video in front of it that talks about the gem in Afrikaans as well. And you know you don't have the skill to do all of those things, or you might think you do not have that skill. But you know what? There's going to be people like Amelia and Bux and Powell and Rian and Ruth and Benny that is going to volunteer, and that's going to help you to get those videos up there so that the Afrikaans community can have Map for Life in Afrikaans. That is one of the things that is going to happen with you on this journey. The next thing that's going to happen is you're going to become an architect of your life. You might not know it yet. You're going to start reading books because you're going to want to know more. And one of those books could be Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. Club. That's going to get you into what they call a power hour. The book's all about own your morning and elevate your life. You might not know it, but you're going to start a power hour. You're going to change your habits. You're going to be a different man. In this hour, you're going to move and reflect and grow. You're going to do some exercise. You're going to go deep, meditate, spend some time in scripture, but you're also going to grow. You're going to read more. You're going to learn more. But that's just a role that could be in your path. The next thing could be a journalist. You could be a journalist because you will be attending something called a Map Cafe. You will be part of Map Talks. You will actually be part of a Mapcon, something that you're doing right now. You're going to learn to know similar-minded people by attending all these events. It's going to make a big difference in your life. You might not know it, Henny, but you are going to volunteer to be a keynote speaker on the 1st of April 2023, where you're going to deliver your first keynote. And you might not know it yet, but you're really going to enjoy that as much as you've never enjoyed anything else. And the outflow of that is going to become one of your passions that you really want to start and follow. It will get you to start joining Professional Speakers Association of South Africa. It will also make you join Toastmasters because you want to work on these skills. The last thing as a journalist that you might not know yet is you will be joining Wednesday evenings something called a Map Talk, and you will be on panels, and you will really enjoy that because you will go in with a mindset of learning, and you will learn from people. You will learn everything that they share with you. You will listen to wonderful talks, wonderful messages, and it will just grow you as a person, but to the level where you can become significant. You will also become a researcher. You will start writing things down. You haven't heard it enough yet, but you will hear something like, if it's not on paper, it's vapor. And if you think it, you need to ink it. You will get to a point where you have your laptop open and you're going to have a spreadsheet open where you just put down quotes. You're going to build up a list of quotes that's going to never stop. You're going to start writing down life stories. You're going to become a keynote speaker. You're going to start remembering all these things that you learn, and they will come to mind when you need them. You're going to start reading with a pen. You're going to write things down as you read so that it can sink in deeper. Some people might actually call it studying, come to think of it. This might also be the starting point of something much bigger that you didn't know was going to happen. You will also become a marketing manager without knowing it. You're going to start getting yourself a mentor that you can use to soundboard, to learn lessons from, that has got the same vision as you, that will guide you on this route to where you want to go. You will also realize that social media is there to help you on this mission of getting to the world and helping people find their purpose. You're going to love it that much that you're going to start writing a blog called Purpose Lessons that will come out every week. And it's going to be something that people will enjoy. And some of the blogs that will come out could be something simple as, what can I learn from Mr. Bean? And then I think the last thing, President Henny, that you're going to learn is dreams do come through. One of your biggest dreams that you can't even remember will come true. You might not remember it, and when I mention it right now, it might come to mind again, Henny. When you were 10 years old, you dreamt about it being an author. You wrote a 15-page, A4 page story about elephants roaming the Serengeti. You were in standard 1, grade 3 these days, back then. And your teacher, Mrs. Pretorius, every Wednesday got you onto the carpet in the back of the class where she read you stories. And on one of these days, the kids convinced her to read your story. The 15-page A4 story about the elephants was read to the class. You might not remember it, but that story was true. And that's your dream of an author was actually planted 40 years ago. It's 40 years later, and your dream is going to be realized. In September, on the 16th of September 2023, and you will actually be the author of your first book. And it is going to be called The Missing Puzzle Piece and the Map. And it's really going to be the story about what you have learned. So my advice to you, present Henny, be bold, go be yourself. Make sure you keep following your purpose, and the real you will start to come out. Remember, you will become a different person, and you will leave a legacy. Use your passion to follow your vision, and most importantly, take meaningful action. Back to the present, I think that's the message I want to share with all of you. You will change. If you start following your passion, life will change in unbelievable ways. You will actually become somebody that you never thought you could. The weaknesses that Lauren spoke about, the distractions that Marvin spoke about, all of those things will start falling in place. Your vision is going to be big enough to drive you to become who you were destined to be. You're going to start living what Glenn has told us. You were born for a purpose that this world cannot do without. Thank you very much, Glenn.
Habari gani, Nadi. My name is Dorothy Nyong'o from Kisumu, Kenya. I started using Map for Life in 2006 when Glenn McQuirk came to launch it in Nairobi. For me, Map for Life is a life tool that unlocks a very fuzzy future and makes it crystal clear about what your purpose is meant to be. I remember taking my daughter Lupita Nyong'o through Map for Life in December 2009. And by the end of the exercise, it became crystal clear to her what she was meant to be and to do. She then went on to do a master's in acting at Yale, and soon after graduation, went on to star in a significant movie, 12 Years a Slave, and went on to win an Academy Award in 2014. My favorite leadership quote is by Miles Monroe. Purpose is when you know and understand what you were born to accomplish. November 10th, 2014. Be mapped.
Henny, we're not going to have you on screen, so we're gonna put you off there for a moment, because that's the future Henny that we've just met, and I was just thinking that I wonder what the future Henny is saying to the present Henny now, because what I heard was really exciting. It's just fantastic to hear all of the things that have taken place as a result of using Map for Life. What a story. Marvin, what is your take home from Henny's session today?
Henny, fantastic job. I always also enjoy listening to your talks and how personal you make it. What's great also is that you take all the things that's happening and you see it as part of the puzzle. It's not one piece that should be not here. Everything that is happening is part of the puzzle. And the fact that you're following through is actually you completing the puzzle. And I think that's so encouraging for me, listening to the present Henny and the future Henny. And I was just looking at my own life and I was just thinking, wow, okay. It's good to just reflect. It's good to stop, just kind of take in what's happening. But more importantly, it just reminded me about how important it is to look at the people around you, because the people around you hold the answer to that next step. Yes, we pray and we ask God for direction, but God uses people.
And there's a reason that there's specific people in your life. There's a reason that there's specific things in your life. A lot of the times, the things that you're looking for, that we're looking for, I'm looking for, is actually literally in your hand. It's literally next to you. It's literally in your room. We don't have to look far. And I think your talk really demonstrated that really nicely. Well done. I really took a lot out of that. Thank you.
Amen. It's exciting to see how things just materialize, eh? You write something down on paper, and then some things happen by accident. It appears. It's there, and I love that statement where Henny said, and I'm sure this is one of the quotes that he's picked up on his screen. Become an architect of your own life. Just a real powerful statement. Glenn.
Henny, you almost had me in tears. I didn't know you, Henny, the old Henny versus the new Henny now. I've only met you since you started with Map for Life, and I have to admit I've seen incredible growth just in the past couple of months that I've known you already. And I always think of that word potential. It's basically latent power. It's unfulfilled energy, and I just see so much of that inside you. And so I'm excited to see what's going to happen with you in the future. If this is what you can do from 2022 to date in less than a year, then I would love to see what you're going to do in the next 5 years. I think it's exciting and really wonderful. So congratulations on that, and keep going, man. Keep going. Just one of the things I want to mention very quickly, and that is that I just am fascinated how God can take something that looks absolutely hopeless and turn it around into something absolutely amazing. And really, that's my take from it today. And I think it's really incredible. So congratulations, Henny. Well done.
Encouraging for sure. Own your morning and elevate your life. Lauren?
Absolutely.
Sorry, Glenn, were you talking to me?
Well, I was waiting for you. I wasn't talking to you.
Oh, okay. No, you froze on my screen. So while you were talking, okay. So for me, Henny, that was such an inspiring message. It was so beautiful. Thank you for stepping out and sharing it with us. While you were talking, I kept getting this picture of change, and what I took from your talk is that change doesn't need to be negative, but it's sometimes the catalyst that can springboard us forward on the road to fulfilling our purpose. And while you were talking, I kept seeing, as you were talking of present Henny and past Henny, almost like you were on the springboard waiting to take this dive into this big pool of water. And your journey has been the first jump that you've taken. And it was just, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed it. And just reminded me that change doesn't have to be scary.
As you were talking about that, Lauren, I wanted to type my thoughts straight away, because the seed is desperate to become the tree, but most people are busy polishing their seed to impress the world with the color of the seed instead of the majesty of the tree, which is designed to be fruitful and become a forest. And so let us let the seed that is desperate to become the tree come out. And I think that's what this message has been for me. Henny, thank you so much. I love the approach of having that rooibos tea, was it? With the future Henny. And sitting there and having that discussion. And I think that's exactly what MAP does. It enables you to connect with your future self. And maybe even a bigger thing, to connect with the mandate for which God has called you. And then to begin to take those steps of faith to manifest it. So thank you so much. This has been a great session. After this short break, we're going to be hearing from Glenn, but first from Miguel in Spain. And I think Glenn actually got to meet Miguel. So let's take this as an introduction to Glenn's talk So over to you, Miguel.
Muy buenos días a todos. I am Miguel Sanz from Madrid, Spain. I started using Map for Life back in 2016, where this picture here, where I am with Glenn, belong to that year in the training I did in Pretoria. And you know, there are many talks, many talks out there in internet, in real life, where great speakers tells you that you are unique, that you need to find your purpose, what you need to do in life. You end up out of those talks really happy, but naked, because you have no tools. What's Map for Life? Map for Life gives you the tools to achieve your goals, to be precise, to do all the things you need to do to achieve them. You are unique. Be mapped.
Well done, Miguel. Really enjoyed that mastery course, I must admit. Thank you, everyone, and looking forward to giving this message to you today. And it's really about the power of vision and what is vision really. I typically, when I think of something like this, I literally do old school. I go to a dictionary or I go to Dr. Google and I go and research. And I came up with a very simple definition of what vision is. And it's simply this: the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom. So let me repeat that for you quickly. It's the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom. Okay. So I'd like to make a statement quickly as far as that definition is concerned. Sight is a function of the eyes. It's not rocket science. Sight is a function of the eyes. Vision, on the other hand, is a function of the heart and the mind. So let me take a step back and go back to that definition, and let me run through it slowly with you. The ability to think about, and let's stop there, thinking, mind. So the ability to think about or plan the future. Planning the future has got to do with your mind, your brain, the way you think about things, plus, of course, your heart, because it's about a heart attitude. It's about the passions and desires that you have for the future. So it's got to definitely do with the heart as well at the same time. Then the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom, back to the brain, back to the mind. Notice that nothing was said about the eyes in terms of the definition. So again, I say, sight is a function of the eyes. Vision is a function of the heart and the mind. So let me expand on this a little bit further now and give you a couple of statements about vision. And I think it'll become a lot clearer to you where I'm going. Vision is a conceptual, and conceptual simply means picture. So let me repeat that. Vision is a picture of the future. A picture of the future. Vision is a glimpse of the reason for your existence. Interesting. Vision is the perception of your divine assignment. It's the perception of your divine assignment. I like this next one. The next one I want to really touch on a bit longer, and that is simply this. Vision is the conception of your preferred future. The conception. Now, when we think of the word conception, I often think of a man and a woman, sexual intercourse. There is conception that takes place. There is a birthing. Such an important aspect that in terms of vision, when you do receive vision and get vision and have vision specifically for the future, it's a birthing that takes place. It's like seed being planted. All right, bear that in mind. The next point is vision is the capacity to see the invisible. Fascinating. Oftentimes we see things with our eyes, but what we see with our mind and our heart is not necessarily always the case, but most of the times actually invisible to our sight. The last one is vision is a visual manifestation of your purpose. A visual manifestation of your purpose. Such an important aspect that. So let me take that further in terms of that purpose. And I believe it was Henny that mentioned this, or it was Nyanga Lupita's mom that mentioned that. She spoke about this. She said that purpose is when you know and understand what you were born to do. Purpose is when you know and understand what you were born to do. Vision is when you see it in your mind and you begin to imagine it. Right. Vision is really a tool, an incredible, amazing tool that you can use as leverage to move you forward past all the obstacles and issues that you have in life. And that's why vision is such a powerful aspect. All right. I'm going to relate a couple of stories at the moment, because oftentimes when I speak to people and I give talks and I talk to them afterwards, within 24 to 40 hours, most of the information that you give someone is gone. It's disappeared, you've forgotten it. But the stories, on the other hand, the stories are the things you're going to remember. So here goes the first story. It's about a Buddhist monastery, and there was a construction company that was building a road through this town. And unfortunately, the lay of the land was in such a manner that they had to build the road right through the monastery. So after much negotiation and a lot of talk, the Buddhist monastery people finally decided, okay, let's move. But there's a Buddha, an 11-foot Buddha, clay Buddha, smack bang in the middle of the monastery. So how are we going to move this? So the construction company came along and said, don't worry about it. We've got a crane. We'll pick it up. We'll shift it. No problem. No cost to you. We'll do this for you. The day arrived. They came along with the crane, started lifting this clay Buddha, and the clay started crumbling. And by the time they got this Buddha, this 11-foot Buddha, to the next position where they had to position it, literally the clay crumbled off and fell off. And what was revealed? I'm sure most people probably know already. Pure gold. Yeah, right, pure gold. What the Buddhists thought was a couple of $100 worth was actually a couple of million. My question to you today is simply this. What is the gold inside you right now that needs to be revealed? Because there is gold in you. There is potential inside you, and it needs to be revealed. It needs to come out. And vision can help you to do that. Vision for the future can literally be that leverage that drives you forward to actually attain it. Exactly what Henny did. Okay. Let me go to another story quickly, and it's about Ted Engstrom, and he was the former president of World Vision. And he talks about the story about a young girl on a cruise ship with her dad. And as they're moving out into the harbor, out into the open sea, she's tugging on her dad's arm and she's saying, Daddy, Daddy, I can't see. Because there's people all around and she can't see anything. So he picks her up and plonks her on his shoulders. And she suddenly has this vision and sees the immensity of the sea, the absolute amazing picture of that. And she says these words to her dad, Daddy, Daddy, I can see further than I can look. Think about that. I can see further than I can look. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the power of vision. We need to be able to see further than we can look with our eyes. And we need to allow that to take place. And Henny mentioned that word, imagination. It is such an incredible, powerful tool. We need to use it effectively and not allow it to be a nightmare, but to imagine things for the future. And bringing it back to Map for Life, that's exactly what the second step does for you. If you focus on that second step, going through the methodology, it is an incredible tool to start thinking and dreaming again and bringing out all kinds of ideas and concepts and writing it down. Don't just think it, think it. Okay. All right. I'd like to give another story quickly. And I'm sure most of you probably know this story already. It's about Walt Disney. And he happened to be sitting on a bench within Disney World, and Space Mountain hadn't been built yet. It was just a thought and idea that was being thrown around. And he was sitting on this bench staring out onto an open lot. And one of the gardeners came walking up to him and said, Mr. Disney, are you okay? And he said, I'm seeing Space Mountain. And he started staring into space, pardon the pun. And the gardener looked at him and thought, and that was it. Needless to say, Space Mountain got built. Walt, unfortunately, had already passed away. And Mrs. Disney had been asked to come and give a talk at the actual inauguration, the opening of Space Mountain. And the MC called her up to the stage and said these words, it is such a pity that Walt couldn't have been here to see Space Mountain. And Mrs. Disney got up, took the mic, and she said these words, Mr. MC, you're actually wrong. You see, it was Walt who saw Space Mountain first before any of us saw it today. And that's the power of vision. Okay. So I've spoken a lot about vision. How do you actually manifest that? How do you actually get there? How do you actually do that? How do you take that vision and really manifest it and move it into a position where it actually takes place and transpires? Well, I think Henny spoke quite a bit about that. But it really starts effectively with a thought, that using the imagination. And so often what I sometimes do, especially around a coffee shop, is sit down and say to myself, I do apologize. I'm going to have to get my, I'm going to duck quickly. I'm so sorry about that. I forgot to plug in. We need power. Apart from vision, we need power. So sorry about that. Okay, back to the talk. As far as that thought is concerned, such an important aspect to take that thought and put pen to paper. There is a scripture, Habakkuk 2, verse 2 to 3, which says, write down the revelation, the idea, the concept, the thought. Write down the revelation, make it plain. Let it hold on with it, and it shall surely come to pass. Though it tarry, wait for it, it will happen. Okay. So that's the start of it. That's the actual start. Get that thought down on paper. All right. The next thing I believe is important is that you need to be speaking and declaring it. Actually speak it out. Get your ears to hear it. The next point is that you start visualizing, physically visualizing exactly what that thought is going to be in the future. Okay. I so often use the example of a brand new car. Have you ever climbed into a brand new car and smelt the leather and felt the steering wheel and touched it? And it's that experience. When you actually experience that, that's when it really starts manifesting and starts working for you. And that's what you've got to get to actually start thinking and using your senses to get that vision clear in your mind. Okay. And lastly, obviously, the goal setting process. Write down the goal and use the effective tool of Map for Life. Okay. It's not just writing down a one-liner and saying, okay, now that's the goal. All right. There's far more to it than that. I don't have time to go into that right now, but that's why you need Map for Life. Okay. All right. I'd like to end off with another story. And the story is, once again, just showing the power of vision and the power of imagination and using it effectively, and then writing down. It's the story about a young man in college who was in his economics class, and he had to write a particular story. And he'd had this vision and this idea of overnight mail. Now, in that particular time where he was living, there wasn't anything like that. It was unheard of. But he had this vision, he had this idea, and he thought he's going to write about it in his economics class. He wrote the talk, put it down on paper, handed it into the professor. Professor marked it and handed it back. And he put a C, the letter C, and marked it with a C. And he wrote these words next to the letter C. Do not dream of things that cannot happen. Wow. Do not dream of things that cannot happen. Well, I feel sorry for that professor, because that young man became the owner and founder of Federal Express. So don't ever allow people to put you down in terms of your vision and dream. Something that's extremely important and that I've realized in life is that oftentimes your family and friends will try and stop you from achieving the dream. And that sounds really crazy, but let me explain quickly. Oftentimes your family and friends love you very much, and they want to try and help and support you, and they want to protect you. So be careful about giving too much information about the dream and vision, and especially if it's something that God has given you divinely. Be careful who you release it to and give it out to and speak about it. Rather give it to people that are going to support you and back you and will trust you in that scenario and protect you and keep you in that position and drive you forward and encourage you in that vision. Okay. The unfortunate thing is, so often I've seen that family and friends will try and love you and want to support you and help you, but at the same time they go, oh, too much of a risk, we don't want you to fail. And that's quite sad. Okay. I always use the example, go after a dream that is destined to fail without divine intervention. So let me end with this. The late Miles Monroe always used to mention about the richest place on earth, and that was not the diamond mines, not the coal fields, not the gold mines. He said the richest place on earth was actually the graveyard, the cemetery, because so many people had gone to the grave with their dream and vision and idea with them. They'd never fulfilled it. They'd never put pen to paper. They'd never stepped out in that vision. So my ask of you today is go and take that thought, take that idea, take that vision, put it down on paper and go for it. Go to the grave empty. Do not stop doing what you should be doing in terms of fulfilling your purpose and dream. Thank you very much.
Good morning, good afternoon. This is Babar Shahzad from Islamabad, Pakistan. I have been associated with MAP Cafe from start of January 2021. My first coach for MAP for Life was Miss Lizel Gareke from South Africa. We have learned important life-changing topics on emotional health, physical health, spiritual health, and mental health. We are not changing our own lives, but life of around us. We are building positive communities in different parts of the world. Recently, I have been associated with Mr. Glenn, where every Thursday we used to discuss different life-changing topics. So our purpose is to change our own life and life of others, to build a community who works for a purpose. So we are also trying to launch Map for Life in Pakistan. I wish all the mappers a very happy and prosperous future. Thank you and have a great day ahead.
Vision is a picture of the future, and I think that was a very powerful message, Glenn. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I love the stories because the stories really convey a message that you're able to remember so easily. Lauren, you were last in our previous session, so you are first in this session. Tell us, what was your take home from Glenn's message today?
Glenn, I really enjoyed your talk, and it just reminded me of where am I looking and where is my focal point? Is it on the outside vision that I'm seeing with my eyes, or the internal vision that I'm seeing with my heart and my mind? And it just brought to mind the Proverbs 29:18, where it says, "Without vision, the people perish." And it's just that thing of, if you are focusing on the things that are inside you, that's been put inside for a purpose and a reason and to fulfill the potential, then it will come out. But if you're only focusing on what you're seeing here in this world, it's not going to manifest and become a reality in this world or the next. So I think that was my biggest takeaway from Glenn's talk.
It's actually quite interesting how there's that linkage, because vision is the thing that helps us to handle or bypass the distractions. To have the discipline to keep focused on the vision. So, Marvin, what was your take from Glenn's talk?
Glenn, well done. It was fantastic. I love how you split up the fact that your eyes and your heart and your mind and their correspondence in either being part of your vision or not. It reminded me that we don't need eyes to have vision. Vision is something that actually comes from the heart and actually comes from the mind, and it's important to get the two to connect. Once those two are connected, that's when that actual powerful vision becomes a reality. And you reminded us again about how important it is to write it down. Even scripture says how important it is to write it down. If we don't have vision and we're not chasing our own vision, we should be asking ourselves, whose vision are we chasing? Because we all are chasing our vision. And if it's not yours, it's definitely somebody else's. So well done. Thank you.
As you're sharing that, I remember sitting on the stoop, the veranda. I don't know what you call it where you live, but our farm had this view of the ocean. And I used to sit on the veranda and look at that line that separated the water from the atmosphere. It was called the horizon. and I could see further than I could look. I just loved that statement. I could, because I used to spend my time looking beyond that horizon and just imagining the future Henny. Well, Henny, what was your thought?
Glenn, I love when you talk stories. There's a child in me that still loves my stories. I need to hear things in stories, and you're right. If I go to church and they mention a story on a Sunday, that is something that stays with me for the week. Maybe I want to quickly share a short story. There was a 6-year-old girl that was really not easy to be in class, and the teacher one day got them to start drawing pictures, and she asked them to draw anything that they want to. And all of a sudden, this little problem child that she was called started drawing away happily. And the teacher was quite surprised, and she went back to have a look at it, and she asked her what you were drawing. And she said, I'm drawing a picture of God. And the teacher said, but nobody's seen him. And then the little girl responded, they will as soon as I'm done. And I think that's really, for me, what our visions are. We need to see something that doesn't exist. Walt Disney said that if you can dream it, you can do it. And I think your vision, the way you explained it for me was very powerful as well. I think the power of a vision board comes to play so much more in detail right now. We've got technology that makes things a lot easier. Your vision board almost becomes a movie, and you're the actor playing in it. And you almost need to start looking at the trailer right now of what your movie is going to look like at the end. And we can almost do it. And then I think the last thing that stood out for me was really about writing things down. I said to Glenn, I was reading a book, Wink and Grow Rich, where they say, think it, ink it, do it, and review it, which is for me almost in a nutshell, Map for Life. We need to write things down. And if you start writing things down, you might not know it right now, but you might actually end up being an author. Everything written down becomes a book.
I like that, Henny. Thank you so much. And I like your statement of your vision board is a preview of the future Henny. It's a preview of your future, and so we need to get our vision boards down. I think it's an essential part of pursuing our purpose with passion. So thank you so much for joining. I'm going to share a short message after this. I see our time is, we're fast getting to our 11 p.m. end. I might ask for you as a panel to have a short discussion after I've shared my message. I'll keep it short. And Glenn, maybe I'll let you just lead the panel discussion after my session, and then following that we'll end with a video. So let's hear from Salem, all the way from the DRC.
Hello everybody, my name is Salem Omari, and I will tell you my journey with Map for Life. Yes, of course, I don't have a Map for Life book. I have the product of what Map for Life has done for me. In 2019, if I'm not mistaken, or 2018, I think it's 2019, Dr. Glenn came into Kinshasa, and he had a Map for Life seminar. I attended the Map for Life, and by the end of that seminar, I had my eureka moment where I was like, I know my purpose. I discovered, and I was able to play. But I told myself, for somebody who was already ambitious, it was so easy to get pumped up and start with something new with their life. That was the contribution of Map for Life. But then I told myself, what can I do for my people? Because in my country, women are destined to marriage. And I was astonished to see that when I was describing my biggest dream, I was talking about myself, talking to women about purpose. And I say, this is the reason why I was created. So Map for Life has helped me plan, have a clear picture and understanding about my own life purpose. Today I started Compass of Destiny, Boussole de Destiny. It is because of Map for Life. I was able to see what Dr. Glenn was able to do with us, and I was able to take what was important and create what we see today. I would like for people who can support, for people who can finance such huge projects. We want to have a training center who will help young women or young men to discover purpose and live a life with determination, to not go to the tombstone with all the potential that they had and they couldn't manifest. So if you can be one of our partners, you are mostly welcome. Thank you for your hand of hope. Hello everybody, my name is Salem Omari and I will tell you my journey with Map for Life. Yes, of course, I don't have a Map for Life book. I have the product of what Map for Life
is determined to bring the DRC right into the room over here. You know, what's fascinating about Salem was she happened to be helping as an administrative person at an event that I was doing in Kinshasa in 2019. And she was sitting at the back of the room and instead of just leaving after she had completed registering all of the participants that day, she stayed and she stayed and she stayed and she was there for all 3 days, when her task that she had been employed to do was simply to help with the registration desk that morning. And out of everybody who attended, she's the one that has made an incredible impact. And she's written a book, she's been doing different things. So just fascinating. And just this last week, I received this, and you might see the resemblance, but it was just a hand-drawn, or what do they call it? A caricature, I suppose, caricature of a photograph that she had of me, and just such a nice gesture to get a thank you gift. And that was something that was handed to one of our Map for Life trainers at an event where her book was launched. And she started the Purposeful Woman is a YouTube channel that she has. I think that's what it's called. And just great to see her doing things both in English and French. I wish I could speak French. Well, in fact, that's an incorrect statement. I can speak French. Bonjour, madame. Je m'appelle Glenn. You know, so I can add on, and I'm going to keep adding on words, and eventually I'll be a fluent French speaker. So I mustn't use words that talk about the fact that we cannot do things. I want to share just briefly something about purpose, because our message, our theme today is to make life purposeful. And so many people are seeking their purpose. And I think the mistake that we make is the one that I made, which was to ask the question, why am I here? I was asking this question for years. It started in 1996 when I was about Lauren's age, 30, my 30th birthday. I asked this question, why am I here? It was only many years later that I realized that was a question of location. I was in fact questioning God's mind. Why did you put me on planet Earth? Surely you could have sent me somewhere else. Surely you could have given me a different life experience. Why am I in this place? But actually, the statement that leads to you stepping into your purpose is a statement of surrender and submission, where you say, here I am, I'm ready. I know that your purpose and plan for my life is more than what I can think and imagine, and I'm ready for it. And when we place ourselves in that position, the why is revealed. And so I'd encourage each of you to begin to step into that place, just like the seed. You know, it buries itself all alone in a dark, dingy place, in an environment it's never experienced before. And when it steps into that unexperienced environment, it is there where it is able to let go of the mask that covers the gold that lies within, which Glenn was talking about earlier. You know, the clay exterior disappears and becomes part of the soil, but the gold that it is hiding reveals itself as a tree that becomes fruitful, that multiplies and becomes a forest. And so purpose is powerful, but for purpose to manifest, you and I have to let go of all of our selfish ambitions, to let go of wanting to glorify ourselves. You know, I just loved the opportunity that Glenn had to demonstrate a message within his message, a message that he hadn't planned for, a message where he had to suddenly dive down into the dirt, as it were, and he had to plug himself in, you know. And the question that came to my mind was that, you know, he said, I think he used the words, we need power. And what I began to think about is, what are you plugged into? Who are you plugged into? Because purpose requires that you are plugged into your source. You know, a fish cannot leave the environment of the sea. It needs to stay in the ocean because that's the environment that it thrives in. You and I have to take the oxygen. We have to take our food. We have to take everything that forms our environment with us if we decide to go into space, or if we go deep into the ocean. We need that with us because we cannot be separated from the environment from which we were created. And at the same time, we have something different, and that is a spiritual connection. And so we need to remain connected to our source. And I think this is key to being able to pursue your purpose with passion. And so we need to make it part of our morning rituals. I think Henny was talking about something to that effect. Henny, I'm going to try and look up what I wrote down this morning, because you said something about the morning and how we prepare in the morning. You know, fully embrace your strengths was what Lauren was talking about. But Henny, you shared something, and where is that message that you wrote down, or that I wrote down? Own your morning and elevate your life. And for me, when I heard you say that, it was really about plugging into your source. When we are separated from our source, we see doom and gloom. When we are plugged into our source, we cannot but have hope for the future. And that's what purpose provides. It provides an exciting and anticipated future, one where you are abundantly provided for. I want to tell you today that purpose is not inherited. It is inbuilt. It's not something that you inherit from your parents. I see there's a trend in history, and there's a trend today where children are following on the same profession as their parents. Your profession is not necessarily your purpose, but your purpose, or rather whatever you do, should be fully aligned with your purpose. Too many people dabble in purpose as far as a hobby might go, but they have the separation of their personal purpose and their job or that situation. And I think the time for us to connect fully and completely with our purpose is now. We are in the purpose era. Your purpose is not defined by your learned skills. It is found in your born gifts. And as a parent, you and I are responsible to identify the born gifts that our children come with, the things that they reveal that, neither you nor your husband nor anyone else has taught them. They just do it naturally. And when we see that, we need to give them every opportunity to experience that which comes natural to them, to pursue it with passion, so that when they are older, they will not depart from that way. You've got to understand that today we're living in a man-made system. And this man-made system has developed a set of laws. And we are now in a position where the man-made system is what we are working for. It was designed to work for us. We have now become its slave. and that needs to change. You know, the Sabbath was created for man, not created for the Sabbath. And I think we in this world have created a system. It starts with education, and we get schooled in how to function and operate in the system to the point where the system controls us. If you don't have a certificate, if you don't have a piece of paper, you believe you don't have the authority. Well, that is true in the man-made created system. But I want to tell you, when it comes to purpose, you were already authorized. You have full authority to operate in your gifting, because that is what comes naturally to you, and that's what's going to impact the world in a powerful way. In a sense, it's your strength, but the world sees your gift as a weakness, and they want you to replace your weakness, which they perceive to be with a skill which they perceive to be a strength, because the skill is something that's difficult to learn. And if it's difficult to learn, you must be strong if you can do it. But it's actually in your natural born gift that you thrive. Purpose is not chosen, it is discovered because it is inbuilt. It precedes the creation of everything. The need that needs to be met defines the purpose. And if you are a created being, then there was a need that pre-existed your creation. So your purpose was defined before you were even made. And so therefore, you discover your purpose. It's not chosen. You have the free will, though, to exercise a choice to follow your own path, or to follow the original path that God had planned for you. And then lastly, purpose will never be discovered inside the comfort zone. It's waiting for you beyond the comfort zone. And today, maybe each of you in some way have stepped outside of your comfort zone. You've done something that you're not doing every single day of your life. You have begun to share some of your inner thoughts. Some things you've shared have been ideas that might be true. But all of what you have shared is going to lead to someone growing and experiencing something new. We have, in a sense, created here a new environment. An environment that stretches people's ideas, gets them to think differently. And in that process, maybe provides the catalyst for the discovery of purpose. I wrote a quote many years ago, and that said, the comfort zone is that place where people who simply exist live. Beyond the comfort zone is where the people who really live exist. So if you want to really live, you got to step outside or off the blanket, outside the house, into the world out there. I think many people's comfort zone is city living. We all gravitating towards the city, to the concrete jungle. And in here, all we can do is listen to other people's thoughts and ideas. I think it's time for us to head in the opposite direction to what the world is. Let's get out into the world God created, and maybe when we're out there, we can look up at the stars. We can see a vision that's beyond what we could ever imagine. Just like Abraham, who had no child, was able to look up at those stars and hear the promise that one day your descendants will outnumber the stars that you see in the heavens. I mean, imagine that. Imagine that. Perhaps that is waiting for you and I to leave our Father's house, to leave our people, to leave our nation, and go where God is calling you. Go where your heart is leading. Maybe there's some secret hidden in there. I'm going to hand back to the panel in a moment, and I trust that they're going to share their insights, and with that, we're going to close with a short video. So here's a short video first, just from me, and then I'm going to hand back to the other Glenn and to the team.
Today, for me, today for you, today for each of us, is an opportunity and an invitation to step into a world of abundance where your life matters, where your vision makes a difference, where the world will know that once upon a time in the past there was a man or a woman who rose to the calling of God in their life and made the impact that they were designed to make. And you have that ability. Just die to self, surrender to Him, and become significant. I couldn't be more excited for you. I could not be more excited about the future, because every person that you equip to take that step of putting a plan together for their life, a plan that is aligned with the desires of their heart, those people, those children, young and old, are going to come alive, and they're going to cause a ripple that goes through time that impacts the lives of others. Make the choice today to live a life of significance.
Wow. That's truly living a life of significance. I'm sure that the panel will agree. I've known Glenn from since 2013, and he certainly is a man that makes a difference in the world, and I think he's touched the lives of thousands upon thousands of people. I have actually so much to say about his talk, but I'm going to keep quiet, so I'm going to hand over to the panel now. Let me choose Henny first. Henny's on the left-hand side of my screen. So Henny, I'd like you to go first and just give some feedback about what Ben spoke about.
I think the one thing that stood out for me really is everything that I need to fulfill my purpose is with inside me. I don't need anything else. I don't need to do anything else. I am good enough just as I am right now. The only thing that's needed from me is really the guts to take the steps and go and do things. That's all that's needed. And I mean, Glenn spoke about purpose and a number of things, but for me, that was the heart of it. You've got what you need, just go do it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. You've been given the gifts and talents, just get out there and do it. Fantastic. Well said, Henny. All right, Lauren?
Yeah, I kept getting reminded of this word, the Hebrew word, and I can't remember what exactly it is. I think it's the word gibar. And that is something that is placed in us before conception even happens, which what you were talking about. And that is everything that God put in us to make us who we are. It's the vision, it's the purpose, it's the little quirks, it's how we think, everything. And as Glenn was talking, that word just kept coming to mind for me. And I was trying to find a definition for you, a formal one, but I couldn't in time. But yeah, it's just the thing of don't worry about everything else, but look at what's inside and work on pursuing that. And I loved how Glenn actually tied up all of everyone's talks from this morning into one neat little package right at the end. I felt that all came together so beautifully as he ended off.
Excellent. Well said. Well said. Fascinates me, how oftentimes when we do these talks and Mapcons and the Map talks and everything, that the different speakers don't necessarily talk to each other beforehand, but we come on board and do these talks and everything just flows into each other and just works. Really fascinating, quite amazing. So God really does work. Marvin, what's your take?
Thanks, Glenn. Glenn M. Well done. That was brilliant. It was a great reminder for me that as parents, we need to really help our kids to identify the giftings within them. Because in this digital era, there is this push to have to be like somebody else and not stand out. You know, we're meant to stand out, not to fit in. And I think we've got to help our kids and help ourselves to make sure that we're looking at the right things, and that right thing should be exactly what Lauren was saying. Look from the inside, because inside us is the purpose. Inside of us is that gifting, the talent. Inside of us is that unique thing that the world needs to see within us. And if we're not looking inside and living that out, the world is missing out. You're missing out on giving what's inside of you and what comes naturally. And I think also reminded me how sometimes it can be scary to want to do that, because what if people won't like that? And I think those little fears are the fears that we need to really overcome. And we need to just step out in faith, because that's the only way to do it. Stepping out in faith is how we've got to live our lives. That's what the Bible commands, and that's actually how we grow. So the last thing that he said was, beyond the comfort zone is where people really live. How many of us are actually living beyond our comfort zone? So that really was a great challenge and a great thought that left me thinking. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thanks, Marvin. I really appreciate that. You know, Glenn started off his talk by saying things like, why am I here? And so often I've seen this before happen with so many people that start asking this question, even from a young age. And all the way through to in late 60s, 70s, they're always asking this question, why am I here? Why am I here? What's my purpose? What's my purpose? And Glenn McCook spoke about that concept of just changing around and saying, I'm here, why? And there was the story about this little kid who was speaking to his dad, and his dad was fixing something on the bike or the bicycle. I couldn't remember the full story, but the child actually said something, and he actually got it a bit wrong. What he was meant to say was this: what on earth are you doing? But what he actually said was, what are you doing on earth? And his dad stopped and looked at him and thought to himself, you know, that's such an amazing statement, because that's exactly what we're here on earth. What are we doing? What are we doing on this earth? And it really comes down to purpose, which is exactly what Glenn spoke about. I mean, every single statement that Glenn made was just so pertinent. And I think so many of us struggle with this issue. I struggle with this concept of what is my purpose for many, many years. And yet the issue is that we tend to look for it on the outside instead of looking inside, which is exactly what we discussed. And so just to end off, I'd like to say to everyone listening, and also to the panelists, thank you very much for each and every one of you. Thank you to Glenn McCook for putting this together. Always amazing. Always enjoy this. And for those of you listening today and in the future, when you're listening and looking at these things on YouTube, I want to challenge you, and I want to say to you, think about the things that we've discussed. Go through these talks and literally take the thoughts and ideas and put pen to paper and write it down. And I think take it a step further and get involved with Map for Life. Get to meet some of the coaches, go onto the website and get involved, because there is so much potential available to you and so much knowledge and information there for you. So don't ever give up on that. Don't ever give up on the dream. Thank you very much, everyone. And we trust that you'll all have an awesome weekend and be blessed. Take care. I think Glenn is just going to finish off with a video to end off.
The key to a meaningful and successful life is knowing where you are, knowing where you want to be, and how to get there. We all need a map for our lives. Map for Life empowers people from across the world to pursue their God-given purpose with passion and perseverance for life. Map for Life is a personal development program and network that empowers people to realize and develop their unique God-given purpose by means of its structured methodology and interactive learning experiences. We want to help you achieve balance, find direction, reach your goals, and discover your purpose. Our offering consists of unique products, services, programs, and networks. Our publications guide you through the Map for Life methodology. Basic, standard, advanced, and mastery workshops are designed to equip you to identify, reach, and realize your purpose. Our online, one-on-one, and group coaching programs exist within an accountability framework, fully embedding the Map for Life methodology. Map for Life creates a dynamic environment where purpose-driven individuals can plug into a global community and experience functional networks designed to share with, learn from, and inspire one another. Conceived by Glenn McQuirk in 1978, the Master Action Plan was finally developed and published in 1999. By 2006, Map for Life as an organization was fully trademarked and institutionalized. Our long-term vision was already established as early as 2008, with the global launch event planned for 2020. Next, we will be expanding into 200 countries across 20 languages. There are many success stories that show the real-world effectiveness of Map for Life, including those of Cape Epic rider Neil Faree and more recently, Academy Award winner Lupita Nyong'o. Our vision for the future is to be a positive global influence and reach 200 countries across the globe to empower people to use Map for Life, to enable them to achieve balance and purpose, and to become a positive force in the community, country, and globally. By touching lives and transforming people, we will not only enable individuals to identify and pursue their purpose in life, but also bring glory to God by helping them to develop an intimate relationship with their Creator. Partner with us and play an integral role in mapping the world through purpose.